You walk up to 3 people. You ask the first person, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm just building these bricks. You ask the next person, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm building bricks to build this wall. You ask the third person what he's doing. He says, well, I'm building these bricks to build the most beautiful cathedral you've ever seen. And that is what tattooing is to me. Every single day, I'm building the most beautiful cathedral I've ever seen, which brings me to the big vivid vision thing you always hear me discuss. What blueprint do we have to build the most beautiful cathedral we've ever seen? How do we design our life around that, our belief systems around that, our mission, our battle plan to that, so that we're not just building bricks anymore. Now we're on the path to create the most beautiful cathedral we've ever seen.
Shit's about to go down. I'm feeling something in my spirit.
Chats and Tatts with Aaron Della Vedova.
Hello, friends, neighbors, lovers of art and tattooing. Welcome back to Chats and Tatts with me, your host, Aaron Della Vedova. Today's guest is a very inspirational dude. This guy is attacking life with a veracity that's probably like a David Goggins type energy. He's a tattoo artist of 20 years. He is the owner of Legacy Tattoo in Grimes, Iowa, and he's the host of Creating a Monster podcast. And he's also the voice behind the Force of Focus. Basically, he is a business and mindset coach for creatives and specifically tattoo artists. And he has the ability to teach you how to make promises to yourself and keep them. Accountability. Today, we talk about fear, why we fear things, how that holds us back, how learning what we truly are is the first step in designing a path to your dreams. So, and everything in between, specifically, again, relating to tattoo artists. So if any of this makes sense to you, or if any of this is something you'd like more of in your life, I really think you'll enjoy this episode. And with all that being said, please welcome my guest today, Michaeel Getz. Michael, dude, thank you for coming. I mean, all the way from Iowa. I mean, this wasn't, a lot of my guests, they live around here, they cruise in. It's really sweet. But you actually got on a plane to be here today. I really want to tell you, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
The fact that I was invited out here, obviously I'm going to get on that plane and come do it. You know what I mean? Like partly it's the experience, but it's also, it's just the fact that I'm humbled in the fact that you were willing to invite me out here to make it happen. So I'm going to get on that plane. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to have the conversation. There's no reason not to,
Well, there could have been. I mean, obviously you see something in me and you see something in this show, because we were talking about this earlier. A big part of success in life is saying no.
Yeah.
There's only so many minutes in a day. And if we said yes to every opportunity, we'd just be bogged down with half of its bullshit. This was wasting our time, accomplishing nothing, helping no one. So you saw value in me. You saw value in the show. I appreciate that. And I respect that. And the fact you're here means a lot. So Thank you.
You are a very active part in my season of no, because I could very easily say yes to making the trip.
Well, I'm glad I made it easy for you. Well, so you are a high performance business and mindset coach, but specifically for the tattoo community. I'm sure you have clients that aren't exactly tattooers. And as your company, the arena, expands, I would assume you're going to maybe expand into whoever, because of the lessons you teach and the things we're going to talk about today. I mean, they apply to life. They don't just apply to tattooers.
Absolutely.
But you are a tattooer. I just want to put that out there. Yep. A 20-year tattooer. You're a shop owner of Legacy Tattoo in Grimes, Iowa for the last 4 years with your partner, Brock Logan. And you are I want to say host, but your podcast, not your podcast, your Instagram page, The Force of Focus, kind of where you put out your coaching ideals and things like this.
Yeah.
Which are, a gateway to now the arena. And I'm going to let you break all that down to us here in a second. But I just want to get that out there, that's who you are. These are the things you are. Not to mention you're a father. You got a 15-month-year-old son. That's its own category of life. But let's just talk about that. So let's rewind a little bit. I know a little bit about you in this regard, and you can break this down. Younger guy in the tattoo scene 20 years ago, bikers, party boys, whatever you want to call them. You latch on to the identity of that scene, and I get it. 34 years ago for me. And, I'll just kind of a caveat. I was blessed by having such fucking horrible, mean bosses.
Yep.
that I disidentified with that tattoo artist
Yeah.
thing. You know, I know this now looking back because I became like anti that. Like I was like, oh, that's you guys are tattooers. Like I don't want any of your approval. I don't want to be like you. I'm gonna. So that sent me on my journey of creating Guru Tattoo, which was my statement of like we're gonna do the opposite of what these guys are doing. Now, you know what we do here at Guru. I could go down that speech about how great the shop is, but really there's a lot of shops that are this great now. But back 34 years ago, man, this was a fucking unicorn situation.
Yep.
A shop where it was all about customer service, caring for people, actually, you know, treating that person in your chair like it's your brother or your mother, you know, these ideals. You know, my first boss told me, you see those people on the other side of the gate right there? Yeah. Those are your enemy. That was how he described the clientele. The enemy. Yeah, we got to fucking fuck them. All right. You ready to get to work today? I'm like, whoa, bro.
That's harsh.
That's hardcore.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, you know, but he grew up in the streets of San Francisco working for Henry Goldfield. And I get now why he said that because, I mean, it was rough, dude. Like dudes would come in and try to rob them. Everyone packed a gun, you know? So it was to him like, this is like, we're the team, we're the gang, and that's our enemy out there. And so, you know, a little forgiveness towards Frankie for saying that, because I do understand his circumstances and why he felt that way. But I didn't feel that way. And the industry back then was changing to what it is today. And the customers weren't the enemy, and they weren't coming in to rob you, and they weren't coming in to fight. They were just coming in there to have a great experience. And so that's where we're at today in tattooing. Hey, everybody, I just want to take a quick moment to shout out our sponsor, Sullen Clothing. If you're a lover of tattoos, a lover of tattoo art, and you'd like to see some of that great stuff printed on your favorite t-shirt, that is the place to go. SullenClothing.com. Ryan and Jeremy, the owners, good friends of mine, huge supporters of the tattoo industry. And again, man, you got to go to their website and check it out. The best tattoo artists in the world have their art on their hoodies, their shirts, their tank tops, their hats. Really high quality stuff. Half my closet is filled with it. So please, thank you again, Sullen, for the sponsorship and the support. And if you're into that kind of stuff, go check them out. So you get into the game of tattooing, the business of tattooing, the career of tattooing, and you start wanting to be accepted. And that meant, and I'll let you take it from here. And then I want to hear about how that you hit this wall at some point where you're like, this isn't working. And, you know, eventually leads you to creating the Force of Focus and being a life coach for others. So let's hear a bit about how we got here.
To be honest, like my entire life, I just kind of wanted to fit in. I was adopted at a very young age. So even in that most loving family you could ever imagine, very accepting, but feeling a disattachment, knowing that I was kind of in a place that I think even from utero, I didn't know if this is where I was meant to be. I would try to attach myself to things. I would always try to feel like I was more of a part of something. And it went through my whole childhood. I just tried to fit in. I just wanted people to accept me for who I was, unknowing who I truly was. So I started to absorb a lot of the surroundings that I was in, a lot of the people that I would associate with. And so I'd put myself in worst case situations because I thought less of myself. And so obviously that's all a hindsight reality. It's a hindsight realization that I had come to was the fact my entire life revolved around just wanting to fit in and just wanting to be accepted, wanting to feel like I was in a place where I belonged. And as I got older, I got into like the punk rock scene and the hardcore scene where everybody was a little bit more living life on the edge, a little bit more living life off the cusp of social expectations and norms. Everybody standing at the top of the stairs screaming, "Fuck you, dad," kind of attitude. And I aligned with that because I was wearing a suit of armor to protect myself because I realized I was still an emotional being. So I had to protect myself from things. You know, but it also taught me to not value the experiences, not value the moments, not value the people in my life. I was always searching for someone new to make me feel like I was the right one, which took me down the path of I would never value my parents in my life. I knew they were going to love me. So who can give me love now? Who can fill my cup for me? You know, and I think in a really roundabout way to kind of fast track was sadly, but also humbly, that's where tattooing came in because every time I get to work with a client, I get to provide them an experience. I get to provide them the art that they had hoped for. Even 20 years ago, that would give me a pass or fail. By their experience they were able to gain, my cup was filled. If I did not provide that experience that they had hoped, like in my very younger years, that'd be a hole in the bottom of the cup. So I would start to be able to gauge where that came from. And I realized that by helping others, by helping people celebrate, commemorate, create a more significant memory, or to help them become a little bit closer to the person they know they were supposed to be, just externally, that's where the sweet spot was. It wasn't just about the art for me. It was about the human interaction. It was about that human connection. So I started to really value that as much as the actual tattoo process, the nuances of. I consider tattooing something very similar to conducting an orchestra. And that all took me a really long time to put into words, to be able to systemize, to know that I was able to help other people and in turn help myself. So I didn't need to worry about what I was getting from situations, who was going to make me feel better. I knew by helping other people feel better, that's where a lot of my value came from. Seeing the experience, the joy in other people's eyes.
Being of service.
Yeah, absolutely.
Service. You know, I was just talking to one of my artists out there before you showed up today about this exact subject and how really that's the job. I mean, you could go deeper and even say that to truly be fulfilled, and this is just my personal belief, you have to serve others.
Yeah.
That's where fulfillment comes from. And you'll notice that when you meet wise people.
Yeah.
You ask what they do with their lives, and they help. They are of service, whether it's being a father, a husband, a community member, anything. But and a lot of jobs don't require that. I mean, a bricklayer probably doesn't have to really contemplate the intricacies of that every day when he comes to work. But we, as tattooers, taking somebody into our booth and they're scared and they're concerned and they're worried, is it going to go right? And all these things are happening. I mean, we're very uniquely positioned to be of service, you know, and that's where it really does start. Like start there, and then do some cool drawings and make sure you go home and practice and do all the work it's necessary to do a great tattoo. But just being of service. So I'm glad you said that, because I think that's super important in life.
And I think, like, going back, you couldn't have said it better with the bricklayer comparison, because I think a lot of tattoo artists find themselves in that mindset still, where they're just kind of, well, I'm just building these bricks. You know what I mean? I'm just doing the thing. But there was a story that I was told that changed my life. You walk up to 3 people. You ask the first person, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm just building these bricks. You ask the next person, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm building bricks to build this wall. You ask the third person what he's doing. He says, well, I'm building these bricks to build the most beautiful cathedral you've ever seen. And that is what tattooing is to me. Every single day, I'm building the most beautiful cathedral I've ever seen, which brings me to the big vivid vision thing you always hear me discuss. What blueprint do we have to build the most beautiful cathedral we've ever seen? How do we design our life around that, our belief systems around that, our mission, our battle plan to that, so that we're not just building bricks anymore. Now we're on the path to create the most beautiful cathedral we've ever seen.
It sounds like your changeover from what your attitude when you first got in, seeking approval, wanting to be a part of the crew, the clique, to where you are today was more of a gradual one than it was like a epiphanal moment.
To an extent, I hit a lot of brick walls face first. That made me kind of take a step back. I say all the time, I'm not a product of my environment. I'm a student of my process, because I had to take a lot of metaphorical and physical hits to the head to realize the fact that over the course of that time of like prioritizing myself, my own feelings and all that stuff, those were all very valuable life lessons. And, you know, there came a point in time through alcoholism, through drug addiction, even imprisonment, hospitalization, where I just realized, like, it wasn't just enough is enough. It was the, like, I had fought so hard, you know, but I was fighting the wrong battle the whole time, you know, and eventually I did have to take a good hard look at where I was headed. And I realized I had no idea. You know, I say this all the time, like, I had taken up residency in my own hell, and I lied to myself and told me it was a vacation home, you know, and it was time to start really figuring the path out. But I realized there wasn't one light at the end of the tunnel I was chasing. Just the more steps I took forward, the more the light started peering in from everywhere. It wasn't one designated light. It was just a light source that could peer in through everywhere, as long as I started to just kind of shed all the bullshit, you know?
It's cool that, I mean, it probably would have happened to you anyways, but tattooing was a big catalyst to coming to this realization. Yeah, maps are great, right? But they're pretty useless unless you know the destination.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's a big old map, like a bunch of roads, like, but the important thing is, where are you going?
Yeah.
Where are you going? And then you can start looking at the map and deciding, we'll take this road and we'll stop here for the night and we'll go. Life is a lot like that, you know, that vision of where it is you're trying to go. And this, I'm doing my best to bring new words to this, you know, world of manifestation. You know, I think there's, but you know, the thing like The Secret and all this. And I think the message sometimes got out there that, you know, just go to bed at night and meditate on that thing that you want and it'll show up, you know. And I just don't think it works like that. I mean, I think that does work, but I think that's a oversimplification of how reality happens. In my opinion, it's you can leave God out of it. You can leave Buddha out of it. If you just watch the way the universe operates, it seems to be a machine that has rules. Yeah. And one of, you know, some of the simple rules are when you lie to people, it has rules about that. And you attract liars into your life, or you get results that lies create. Yeah. When you love or are helpful, the universe seems to really like that. And you can see it in nature. You can see it in the way planets are formed. So to me, I've kind of come to this place of just being like, look, man, I don't know who built the machine. I just know I'm in it and I see the rules. And one of the reasons I can see these rules more clearly now at 53 is I've had enough time to see the people that didn't play by the rules and the results that they ended up with. You know, because when I was younger, it can be a bit confusing because someone could tell you to live a highly moral life, and you might meet a guy who isn't living a moral life, who's got a brand new boat and a really hot girlfriend. And it's confusing because you're like, wait a minute, this guy's kind of a son of a bitch. I know for a fact that he robbed 10 pounds of weed out of this dude's house last year, but yet look at this great life. Yep. Well, enough years go by, and I'm actually talking about someone I know of specifically. And that dude's life ain't great. Yeah. You know, but it took time for me to see the universe actually. And that's the thing. It's not going to happen today or tomorrow with karma and these things. Like being good today, you're not going to see the results of that tomorrow. Yeah. You might, but in time you will. This machine we're in pays attention and it keeps track of every deed, and you will pay or you will receive depending on how you play. So that's cool that you were able to kind of figure that out on your own, sort of, is what I'm hearing. Yeah. I was lucky enough to have a father that put me through these self-motivation courses when I was like in the 6th grade, who I hated him for it. I'm like, you're going to make me go. My friends are out riding their skateboards. I'm sitting in a fucking conference room at a fucking hotel with a bunch of adults being taught how to manifest, you know? And I didn't give a shit. But the reality was seeds were planted in my mind that I learned later I was using these techniques, you know? So I don't want to take all the credit. I'm very fortunate to have had that in my life. But you're over there, you're kind of getting it the old fashioned way, like hitting your head against the wall, seeing the blood drip down your face and going, that's not working. Let's try that. Let's hit my head on this wall. More blood. You know, just the hard-headed School of Hard Knocks kind of version. Yeah, I say it all the time. Like, I learned a lot of valuable life lessons the hard way. You know, and I take a lot of value and a lot of pride in those experiences because now I can gauge my distance. You know, I know the opposition. I remember what those experiences were, whether they were bleak, mediocre, or painful, either to myself or people that I had hurt along my path. And the reason I did that and I didn't take anything into consideration was because I was my own God. You know, like the only thing I valued was how do I feel? What's coming my way? What can I take away from this? And that's where the problem came in. So I started following an extremely spiritual path. Some call it faith, spirituality, the universe, whatever it is. But I started getting outside of myself. I started realizing that, okay, if I'm my own God, then everything else is at fault for why my shit isn't going the way I want it to. But when I can start to take accountability and start taking responsibility for a lot of the things that have occurred, and I can own that, then I can learn those life lessons. I can finally accept the fact that I was the catalyst of all of these bad things or these hard life lessons. Now I can consistently move forward on my path, gauging, okay, this is where you misstepped. This is where you're trying to head. This is where things went wrong. And there's something bigger than me out there. Whatever that may be is for each person to determine. But as long as it's not all about you, then you as the vessel can create absolute magic. And you'll hear me say this to everyone I meet. I believe in magic because a guy like me coming from where I was should not be in a place like I am right now. And I value that. You're here. Yeah, I agree 100%. I always like to throw in the extreme caveats to challenge that idea because I still believe that it's true. We are 100% responsible for where we're at in our lives. And of course, when you get to the point where you believe that to be true, there the power lies, right? Because now you're in control. Now you're driving. Because if it's your boss or your shitty ex-wife or the traffic on the freeway, that you can't control those things. And so now you're just the victim bouncing around through life, getting ping-ponged between problem after problem until the point where you realize, no, I am somehow creating this. And then you start back engineering, like, how am I creating this? What words am I using? When am I waking up? How am I spending my time? Things like this. The only caveat that I like to bring up, just because it's challenging, is acute tragedy. Because I do believe in this theory, but then you'll maybe meet somebody who goes, yeah, well, hey, bud, that's real cool. But my wife and 2 kids died got hit by a drunk driver a month ago. So I'd like you to explain to me how I created that. Could you explain that to me, please? And it's like, oh, fuck. So I don't have an explanation for the acute tragedy. And that might feather into maybe my belief in karma and reincarnation and a lot of that shit. Like, all I can say to that person is we're being given what we are supposed to deal with. And that was given to you, and that's fucking gnarly, and I'm sorry. But you know, that's when people get hung up a little bit. Like, I'm responsible for everything in my life, yet that happened to me. And this is me saying this because I've had a blessed life, knock on wood. And sadly, I've had conversations like that where people do bring something to the table that they've experienced, that they've been through in their life. It's like, okay, it may not have happened at your hand, but it's still like, what can you do with that? I know you're struggling. I know you're going through some pain, but with that, are you going to live in that moment forever? Or are you going to take that and are you going to change lives with the experience and the things you were able to overcome from it? You know, a lot of people, and I'm not saying that that's a victim mentality, but a lot of people get stuck there. They start living in this Groundhog's Day of it. And it's really hard to escape. But imagine the power and the strength and the change and the impact you can make, knowing that you overcame a moment that would be devastating for anybody to experience. And now you saved them from having to live that same travesty every single day. Yeah, I like what you said there. That's a good answer. What you said there was, maybe it shouldn't be so much about why this happened to me and more about what am I going to do now? You know, and that really is the reality of it. I mean, we can't go back in time. We can't take the tragedy away, but we can decide to use it to empower us, to deepen our character, to give us types of strength that others might not have. And in that way, we can become of service to somebody else that I could never be of service to. You know, I can't speak to the person that has had that happen to them because I've had a blessed life, and I know they're just going to see like, yeah, easy for you to say, all your success, bro. Has that ever happened to you? No, I don't want to fucking talk to you. But the person who has had that happen to them can be a light to others. So that's one thing you could do with acute tragedy. Why some people get delivered acute tragedies and others don't, I don't know. Again, I wonder if there's a system of karma at play, reincarnation, things like this. I don't know, heaven and hell. I don't know, but I do believe we all get exactly what the universe thinks we need for our own spiritual, personal growth. And some people get some pretty gnarly hands dealt to them and others don't. And I don't understand why.
I think there's a lot to be said about not only the question why, but also the fear of what if. You know, because there are a lot of people out there who they get bogged down by experiencing other people's tragedies and say, well, what if that happened to me? How would I handle that? And then they get lost in that same fear of another. So to be able to see people not empowered, but at least creating resilience from any level of tragedy. Tragedy is such a blanket statement nowadays. You don't really know where to gauge it, where it lands on the sliding scale of it. Is it a tragedy or was it just impactful and taking you back in the negative direction? You know, and I think like a lot of the artists that I work with, we do get very wrapped up in a tragedy that we've experienced previously that we didn't address. So one thing that we work through, and I do this with another agency that I work with, we talk about the pain points, the struggles, and the goals. So the pain points are things we've already experienced, the things that start defining our belief systems. The struggles are what are we currently facing because of the variables and the what ifs that we carried with us into present day. And then what are the goals? What would we like to see as the outcome if we can overcome the pain and the struggle? And so when you utilize a system like that to really like put a spotlight on what was so that we can actually face what will be, then what can happen is actually achievable. But if we neglect all of this, that's never something that we can live.
True. Very true. Yeah. Holding on to pain, it's just going to bring more pain. Yeah. And that doesn't help anybody. I like the way you put that. That's a very practical way of addressing tragedy. Let me get you towards, you mentioned earlier, the 6 pillars. I kind of want to get to that because this is kind of, I'm assuming, the foundation of what you teach. It starts here with the 6 pillars. What are the 6 pillars?
To an extent, it is very foundational. So the 6 pillars are all the things that don't revolve around our job.
Okay.
And keep in mind, it's your mind, your body, your creativity, your business, your knowledge, and your relationships. Because your creativity does not mean you're tattooing. Your creativity just means how are you thinking outside of the box in your daily actions. So creativity is not the job, it's the livelihood, it's the belief systems. So a lot of the time when a tattoo artist specifically is struggling with their own inability of believing, there's something in their lives they've been neglecting. You hear the tattoo artist who lives in the tattoo shop just sleeps somewhere else. You hear the tattoo artist who eats out of convenience because they're pressed for time, so now they're unhealthy, unfit, and unmotivated. You know, so if we can figure out where they're neglecting the most in those 6 pillars, then we can start to pinpoint and target that. Once we have proof of concept that you can address it, you can make a promise and keep a promise to yourself, then you can create a snowball effect to give everything that is valued as a human the attention it deserves to create the most well-refined individual, the person we all seek to be. And then your tattooing and your art become an organic, natural flow again, because you're not hyper-focusing it. And so when we go through that process, I broke it down like a macro system. You know, like when you're doing your macros, you've got your proteins, your fats, and your carbs. So out of those 6 pillars, we pick the 3 that are being neglected. We find the one in like an hour and a half long conversation that we tend to navigate more towards. And then we hyper-focus on that. Once we figure out that that is the key thing that is stressing you out, that is holding you back, that is creating doubt, then that's going to be our protein. That's the one that we want to be able to like hyper-focus on. And then we figure out, okay, so how do we create the snowball effect to hyper-focus on the one thing to be able to positively impact the other 2 so that we can get you back to feeling like you are capable, you can, instead of believing and convincing yourself that you can't.
Well, balance.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about balance, right? Because success, you have to be balanced. You have to have good, relationships in your life. You've got to have a healthy diet, exercise program. You've got to have all these things, because if some of those are breaking down, then the other 3 are going to break down with it. Yeah. The balance.
This is total semantics. All right. But I will argue verbiage just because balance comes with a negative connotation as well. So I call it alignment.
I like that better too.
Because balance, a lot of people are like work-life balance. They want to do that whole thing. And what that means to them is bleakly work through the week to get to the weekend, to burn it all to the ground, to start back at 0.
Right.
You know what I mean? And because it has this social expectation, the social stigma around it, I just took balance out of the equation. I hate balance now. I've created my own internal resentment system towards it. So I use alignment because everything we do moves us forward. Now we're aligned. And I feel like just by doing that little shift, like taking the one word out and replacing it with alignment, now we're like, okay, this makes sense. Because everybody's hardwired to these social terms and statements like, work-life balance. It's okay to not be okay. You are good enough. All of these things are empowering temporarily, but if you tell yourself them for so long, then that becomes your new narrative. Every day, if someone wakes up and says, you are good enough, then at the end of the day, you're like, you nailed mediocrity. And that's not going to get us to where we want to be. And eventually we'll realize we just self-sabotaged by repeating the wrong mantra altogether.
Yeah, that's you're kind of getting into some of the woke ideals that are moving around nowadays. Everyone is perfect just the way they are. And on a deep, deep level, that's true. I mean, I believe we're all one giant entity viewing God from our own personal eyeballs. So yeah, I mean, we're all good. But when it comes to maybe your own personal life, eating like shit and being 200 pounds overweight is not good for you. That's not in alignment with a healthy life.
Yeah.
And a healthy life means a healthy career, means a healthy marriage, means all these other things.
Absolutely.
You got to face the ugly things to make any progress. And getting into alignment means facing your shit, your bullshit, the stuff that you're not doing that you know you should be doing.
Yeah. Forcing your focus means doing the hard thing, but doing it for the right reasons. You know what I mean? That's really where it all came to. Was I was the same way. 300 pounds. I was in a toxic, messy marriage, which by no fault of hers, it was just it was just what it was, and we allowed it. We just kept doing this is good enough. You know, this will do. We had balance in what's the term? Almost like trauma bonded. You know, we both knew that we were miserable. Let's at least do that together.
Right.
We're
not alone and miserable.
Yeah. And so that's where like a lot of the drinking was just aggressive. The eating was completely out of hand. What I prioritized, the balance that I had was like, I was the sole provider, at least the primary provider financially. So it was like, I deserve to go out with my friends and burn my life to the ground. And I don't expect any judgment out of you, ma'am. You know what I mean? Like I was that guy.
Right.
And that was when I was my own God. You know, so it took me a lot of those things and facing a lot of those big, hard problems, being able to like force my focus and to understand that I had to make one promise to myself and I had to keep that promise. And when I did that, I didn't hyper focus on this big, elaborate like resolution. It was just make a promise, keep a promise. It may hurt someone along the path, but you're doing it for the right reasons. You know what I mean? You're not intentionally going out to hurt people. You are making the right decision, because it's just, if you don't make a decision, it's the worst decision a person can make, because it'll figure itself out anyway. Like you had said, the universe. It's better to have a yes or no decision to get through the problem than to not make a decision and allow it to figure itself out with a lot more pain involved. I talk about the buffalo mindset frequently because I attach myself to it and like how I move about my life. Which the buffalo is one of the only animals in the animal kingdom who will sense the storm and they'll trudge through it to get to the other side, where the majority of other animals will seek shelter and they'll wait for the storm to pass.
Didn't know that.
And so that has been kind of like, that's more my mantra. How do we face the storm? And now with my lady, how do we face the storm together? How do we just, we sense a problem, we address it. We don't sense a problem and wait for it to build until it's just obvious to where now it's like creating a lack of like, or a level of discomfort, you know?
Yeah.
And that goes for your, like you said, your relationships, your health, your belief systems, your mindset, your work ethic, your client experience.
Universe keeps track, man. You're going to pay those bills one way or the other. You might as well get ahead of it.
Yep.
Yeah. It docks on interest too, the longer you wait. You know, hearing you talk, you know, makes me think a lot about keeping a promise. You know, I want to elaborate on that a little bit. You know, to me, the life you are in, if you were quiet enough and honest enough and inward thinking enough, what you would realize is the life again, I always want to take out acute tragedies. I can't speak for the guy that was born in Uganda with one arm and he has polio right now. I don't understand why that happens in certain, I'm talking about us, you know, regular, relatively fit, able-bodied Westerners, okay? Let's face it, we're in the land of opportunity. You can pretty much do anything you want in this country if you put your mind to it. There are limitations to some races and maybe to female versus male, and I get that. But let's just take that off the table and just talk about, you know, we have a lot of opportunity here that we can all take advantage of. And I find that most people's reality that they wake up in, if they were honest enough, is a reflection of what they believe they should be in. So when you get back to this idea of making a promise, for instance, if I promise that I'm going to work out tomorrow and I don't, well, when I look in the mirror in the morning, whether I consciously remember not working out or not, there's a subconscious part of me that knows I'm looking at a guy that's full of shit.
Yeah.
And then behind that is an idea of what kind of a life does a person have that's full of shit? And behind that is, for most people, I'll say, probably not a great life. People that are full of shit don't have great lives. So there's this unconsciousness of what you think you are, the level of self-love you have for yourself, and then behind that, what a person like that deserves to have or get or be. And that's where we all end up. That's you want to talk about manifestation. That is manifestation. It starts with looking in that mirror and knowing I am an honest person. I do the hard thing even when it's not easy for me.
Yeah.
I don't break my promises. I don't lie. I don't cheat. I don't steal.
Yeah.
Like having all of that and you can't lie to yourself. You know what you've done. You know who you are. And if you've done some bad things, fine. Forgiveness. Today's a new day.
Yeah.
Change. But when you can look in that mirror and know that's a good man looking back at me or a good woman looking back at me, then what a good man or a good woman's life should look like just sort of coalesces around you in time, right? That's how I think the machine, the universe works.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you had said that solely because if we are prone to breaking promises to ourselves, then we will have proof of concept that we can't. You know, when you take a good hard look at old social circles, there was always a friend who would never follow through, they'd never be accountable, they'd never show up for you, and you eventually get rid of that friend. The problem with lying to ourselves is you're stuck with it.
You can't get rid of that.
You know,
yourself.
so, and that's that shift of if you believe you can't, it's because you have proof of concept. So by making one promise and keeping one promise, now all of a sudden the level or it's starting to slide back the other direction. And that's all it takes. It really does. Like you said, just go to the gym. What you do there is completely determined based on what your goal is, or just if the goal was to just go to the gym. Okay, what are you going to do? Steady state cardio? You're going to start crushing it like a bro? What are your plans? Let's figure it out. All you have to do is make one promise. And it's that simple, you know? Like, again, it's not the grandiose, vivid vision that you accomplish today. It's the action steps of the battle plan to ensure that you're on the right path. One of my favorite things in the world to do. And like you said, I don't just work with tattoo artists. It's just who I can speak most like clearly to, is to get rid of the what ifs, get rid of the variables, get rid of the potential threats that you design in your mind. And let's paint this vivid vision. Let's be creative. Let's paint the picture together. Now we can reverse engineer it from, say, it's your 3-year goal, your 3-year vivid vision. Okay, where do you have to be in 1 year? Where do you have to be in 6 months? Where do you have to be in 3 months? Let's create a 30-day battle plan that will keep you accountable to 5 easy focuses to give you proof of concept that if you do this for 30 days, your first quarter is completely achievable. You do that for 3 months. All we have to do is exposure therapy to turn up the heat a little bit. 6 months will blow your mind from what you thought you were capable of accomplishing on day one. We keep that going, and you can shorten your 3-year goal down to 1 year, 18 months. You know what I mean? Because your 3 years was determined based on your proof of concept starting.
Yeah. No, you're right. When you look at maybe that goes back to a little bit about the manifestation problem. I think a lot of people misunderstand that into the idea that I'm going to create my most beautiful vision of my life. Well, it's probably something that seems wildly far away from where you're at today. And in that moment, a part of us might just go, "Oh, fuck, man, that's impossible."
Yeah.
But you're right. You do have to back engineer that, and then it becomes a one bite at a time type thing.
Yep.
Today, I just have to do this thing today. Go to bed, do it again tomorrow, and you stack these things. And you stack these things, and that's great advice. That's absolutely true. Let me ask you a couple bigger, more philosophical questions. What is fear to you?
Energy.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I love fear because fear becomes proof of concept that I can. You know, I lived a life of fear. I lived a life of fear. To me is the what ifs, the variables, the reminder of the pain. So when you face fear, you keep your battery charged. The more you cower in fear, the more you're depleted.
I like your answer. I agree. Fear to me is most of the time the unknown. You know, one thing about moving forward in life and creating a life that you want is you don't get to fully understand the path you're about to walk. Yeah. You only get to see a few steps ahead of you at a time. And I think the universe designed this specifically to develop faith because, I mean, it'd be if the light shone way out and you could see every rock you had to go over and every the path was clear, well, it wouldn't take a lot of faith to walk that path. But when you only get a look at, a little flashlight and you get to see 3 steps and then the next 3 steps and I think a lot of people back away from their goals and their dreams because they don't have a full understanding of what it takes. And just move. Yeah. Go 3 steps. And trust me, once you've moved 3 steps ahead, your flashlight will show you the next 3 steps. And it might even be a little different than you thought. Yeah. Like, holy shit, didn't know we were going left, thought we were going to go right. Pretty obvious now now that I've moved ahead 3 steps that there's a giant boulder to my right. So we're going left. Yep. And I think it's important for people to understand that and to just kind of have that faith that if you're a good person and you're honest and you're loving to others and you're helpful, that path will be there.
Yeah.
And just trust in that. And I think that's a big way to kind of fear is immobilizing. A lot of people, it's too scary. It's better to stay right where I'm at. I can see everything around me. It may not be what I want, but it's safe. I don't know what's 10 steps that way.
Yep.
What could possibly happen? I tell people a lot, like, you don't need a full plan of how you're going to get to that place. You just need to have the vision of the place and then a plan on what steps you think today would be helpful to get you closer to it. And then, a few days, a month or two later, a new route will expose itself and on you go. And eventually you're there.
I've always loved the, we'll call it success right now, just based on the easy terminology. But success is success is a mile long, but a foot deep. You know what I mean? It might be a long road to get there, but once you start putting one foot in front of the other, you realize you get to the end of it pretty quickly. It's the fear of putting one foot down and then consistently moving on that path. And everybody, it seems scary as shit. It seems like it's on the other side. You don't know how you're able to get there until you realize, oh, this isn't so bad. It's actually kind of enjoyable. You know what I mean? Like, the further you go on the path, the more proof you have, the less fear scares you. You know, if you pay attention to the things that I put out, it comes from a sense of intensity because I'm an extremely intense person at my core. And so
that's your nature.
Yeah. And it fuels me, you know, like I can soft talk because that's also part of my nature. I'm a very sincere individual. But if you want to talk about how to get to where you want to be, expect me to use fuck a lot and to say total control, because I'm a firm believer that we have it within us. You know, to be able to have total control doesn't mean that you're controlling other people. It means that you're in control of how you perceive situations. You're in control of how you emotionally react or are emotionally intelligent to situations. How you go about navigating your ship, whether or not you're waiting for the tugboat to pull you to safety, or if you're just driven by the lighthouse. You know what I mean? And that's where my fire and my passion come from. And so those are all of the things that help me know that fear is energy to me now, because I used to be riddled with it, you know, and I was that animal that just, I would seek shelter.
It's also it's a mental idea.
Yeah.
I mean, look at a 2-year-old. I don't see them. I mean, first of all, let's separate. There's two types of fear. There is, what would we call it? Primordial fear.
Yeah.
Obviously, if a fucking wolf a wild lion walked, even a 2-year-old would probably on some level be like, I need to crawl that way.
Yeah.
This thing's about to eat me. Primordial fear is normal. We should all probably have fear in an intense situation where our lives are threatened. But that's not the fear that people are having day to day.
Yeah.
We're having this other type of fear. And it's an idea. It really is, because fear doesn't exist.
Yep.
You know, I mean, a 2-year-old's not scared. He just crawls that way. He's not scared of anything.
Yep.
But life happens. You see people get hurt, and then we retract, and then we create the idea of fear.
Yeah.
I think it's just important to recognize that fear is just an idea, and it really doesn't exist. You know, it's fear and stress. I had a friend once who was opening up his third business, and I know he had a lot going on. I was like, dude, you must be stressed. He's like, what? But I don't believe in stress. That's how he answered me.
I love that.
It was great. I go,
Yeah.
I was like, what? You don't believe in stress? This is Dave Kennedy. He was actually on the show. What's up, Dave? And he's like, no, dude, I'm busy. I have anxiety sometimes. I feel tension. I feel these are just feelings, but what is stress? I don't believe in stress. And I thought that's pretty cool, because we can make things part of our life. We can make fear real or fear not real. We can make stress real or not real. It's all up here in our heads, you know? And that kind of gets down into being in the moment, I guess, you know, because these are all extrapolations of potential futures and outcomes that haven't even happened. You know, I often say to my wife when things are intense in our business life, and I'll say, well, let's just stop for a second. What's wrong right now? Just no. Well, tomorrow. I'm like, no. Now, what's wrong? And the reality is, 99% of my life, nothing's ever been actually wrong in that moment. Now, I have had acute 1% where there was really something wrong right then. But that represents such a small part of our lives. So then why are we living as if something's wrong when there's nothing wrong? This is getting into Buddhism. This is getting into meditation. This is getting into practice of being in the moment. You know, I see those beads around your neck. Do you practice Buddhism?
I have in the past.
Okay.
So the reason I still wear these beads is because they are very attached to the biggest change in my life. When I decided to actually, truly, and sincerely put the bottle aside, quit worrying about.
Because you're sober.
Yeah.
How long you been sober?
Going on 3 years now. And then, I mean, obviously, I, like everyone else who either struggles with, call it substance abuse, alcoholism, drug addiction, or just the stories you tell yourself, you feel like you create enough distance between point A and point B that now you can accept bringing point A back into your life in moderation. But one of the reasons I talk about obsession to such a degree, and I'm so intense, is because moderation doesn't exist in a life like mine, which is fine. You know, because I can obsess over helping. I can obsess over time with my son. I can obsess over my eating regimen or my creativity or the love for my lady or just spending time in each moment and experience. But obsession helps me be in that moment. When I'm giving my power away, like you had said, of the variables of fear or what if, then I'm not obsessed over this. I'm afraid of that. And so
you're not in the moment.
Yeah.
You're living in a fake maybe future.
Yeah. And so I wear my Malo beads. I'm actually talking to my old yoga instructor, Matthew Coder, an amazing dude. Does a lot of coaching as well. But he was a big element to me truly seeing myself for who I was, you know, like, because he saw something in me that I couldn't. And then I started to realize, like, maybe I'm not in control right now. You know, maybe I'm trying to see myself through the eyes of others because I need the validation and I want to know how other people see me instead of just accepting me for who I am so that I can move forward. You know, and that's when I started going through the process of my meditation practice of envisioning myself walking through my field, planting my seed, enjoying my tree, and really watching my clouds pass, getting to really individually watch my cloud pass. And when I can do that, I can apply that strategy to my life. I'm ADHD out the ass, but I no longer have 1 million thoughts a day. I have 100 thoughts per hour. And when I can obsess over what that hour time block is, then I can get that much more accomplished because of my hyper-focusedness and my obsession and my love and my passion for it. And then I notice that cloud kind of pass. And now it's on to the next thing.
Interesting. We're different in that way. But I think what I hear there is, you know, being honest about what you are and who you are, knowing your nature intimately. And that requires some deep self-reflection and a lot of hardcore honesty with yourself. You arrived at a place where you realize, I'm just of a type of nature where I can't have alcohol, even recreationally in my life, because I go hardcore too easily. I obsess too quickly on whatever's in front of me. So I'm just going to remove that, and, you know, you're not advocating sobriety to all the clients you work with. You're saying, for me, it's got to be this way.
Well, and my thing with my sobriety is I did the, hi, my name is Michael and I'm an alcoholic thing for a while. And that was still in a sense, and I don't want to offend anybody who's going through their program, more power to you. It's a beautiful thing to apply to your life. Let's just make that like the case. However, I realized that because I had no purpose, I had no plan, and I had no self-belief, it was easy for me to give my power over to something that would help me with that validation, distance myself from my reality, and to put me in a position to where I would feel more attached to people who were doing similar things. It was our binding agent. It was our common denominator. I no longer truly believe that alcohol was in control of my life. I just know for certain that I was not in control of my life. So now I don't drink solely because I've got shit to do tomorrow. You know what I mean? I don't smoke pot because I've got shit to do today. And that's a me thing. More power to anybody who can, who does, who may eventually. But for me, I love being in total control. I love clarity. I love like being vicious as hell in very passionate ways, not aggressively, but I consider things in my life from those very like intense terms. I love to be vicious towards the actions that I take. And I can do that because I'm not bogged down with a crap ton of brown liquor in my system. I love to be able to see so clearly where I'm headed. Because I'm not living in a fantasy world that I designed for myself while I become a couch potato like I used to. And so I have these, again, proofs of concept of can instead of like what I'm hyper focusing on or prioritizing in individual moments.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. You're an aggressive dude, but aggression can be, you can aggressively be helpful. You can aggressively love. You can aggressively be creative. You know, you're bringing that nature. Your nature is a very, and that kind of, you know, on another interview I heard with you and our good friend Ryan Roy, you guys were talking a little bit about your daily routine. And like him, I was just like, what? Because you get up at 2:30 in the morning.
2:45. I've changed it up a little bit. We backed it up, giving myself a little bit of a leeway here.
You get up at 2:45.
Yeah.
And you get up. Well, tell us what you do. I want to know, because you are a hard driving dude, and I respect that. I mean, you inspire me just being here with you. Like maybe I'll do a little more tomorrow because we had this today. But tell me about your daily routine. I think people would want to hear about what it looks like.
Okay, so at this point, we'll say when this episode airs, my schedule will be 2:45 wake up. I will go downstairs. I will read for 15 minutes. From that reading, I will write the kind of ways that I can apply it to my life. From there, I will meditate on it for 30 minutes. At that point, it's probably going to lead me into about 4 a.m. Me and my lady will be at the gym by about 4:15. I'll work out until 5:30. At 5:30, I'll go home, get showered up, get ready to roll. By approximately 6:30, I'm going to be in my office going over different systems, different clients that I'm working with one-on-one. And then I give myself about 2 hours to work on my own creativity. Creativity for me. You know what I mean? Not client art. None of that stuff. This is where I really sit down and I really tap back into my own natural, organic, creative flow. I do a lot of airbrushing, and I've missed it for a long period of time because I didn't prioritize it. So now I'm getting back into my painting system. And there is always going to be some fluctuation as to what workflow means to me because I'm working very actively in the Force of Focus one-on-one with a lot of artists. I also have my own personal clientele that I tattoo 4 days a week. So the way that I've designed my life is in a red, yellow, green system. Red occurs from 2:45 until about 9 a.m. And red is what I call my urgency, my intensity, and my personal focuses. Yellow is my workflow. So from 9 a.m. until about 6 or 7, I'm workflow. This is, if it's a Force of Focus day, this is getting very active in my DMs. This is creating conversations. I do a lot of audio messages, video messages to people who reach out and have a lot of questions, need help. This is where I schedule in working with the one-on-one clients, working within the community, the arena. And then green is me and my lady's time, me and my son's time. This is the stuff that is not to be documented. This is to truly live in that moment, but I have to earn it. I have to know that I nailed my red, to know that I have the gas in the tank, that I can carry all of those wins into my yellow. That workflow is my purpose, my passion, helping make impact, helping make change. If I nail that, my green is my vacation time. I get to live in that moment, and it is the most, it is so much easier to enjoy that downtime when you know the day that you really experienced was fulfilling and rewarding because you had the plan, you stuck to the plan, you created change, you made these memories with other individuals. And then I get to go home and we don't talk business, we don't talk shop.
From 6 or 7 until
about 10.
You're in bed at 10.
Yeah. Yes.
So you're getting about 4 hours of sleep a night?
Yeah, about 4.5 hours of sleep.
How long have you been doing this? I didn't know the human body could really, you look incredible. You look strong. You look healthy.
I appreciate
Your eyes are bright and alert. You don't look like a man who's sleep deprived.
I'm not. So
this has been for years. You've been doing this 4 hours.
Yeah. So it's been going on pretty much this whole time, about 3 years now, consistently.
Damn.
Yep.
You got me questioning my entire reality right now, dude. I'm convinced I need 7 to 8 hours a night.
Here's the theory that I have. Now, science will argue this. However, I'm a firm believer that if I work myself into exhaustion, without exhaustion being a negative, then I'm in REM immediately. The human body and the human mind really only gets 4 hours of REM sleep a night at best.
You're just getting good sleep for 4 hours.
I'm just, by the time I get to bed, I wish I would-has. I have no racing thoughts. I have no doubt. I can go to bed and just me and my lady will spend 5 to 15 minutes just doing the emotional, holding each other, watching something, having a very in-depth conversation, and then we're out. And we just wake up and just hit it again, man. It's the coolest thing in the world to know I can go to bed without what's tomorrow bring? Doesn't matter. I'm not awake yet. Right. You know what I mean? What the hell's tomorrow doing for me right now?
and you're going to bed with having a day like that. Yeah, like you said, you probably don't have the racing thoughts and the what ifs and I should have and if I only would have today and you did all that.
Yeah.
So you're going to go to bed sleeping like a baby, good 4 hours versus someone who's tossing and turning all night because they didn't fulfill the promises they made to themselves the day before.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the trick. I might experiment with that a little bit. I do go to bed feeling pretty, well, I wouldn't lie. I mean, there's days where I don't go to the gym. There's days where I don't do some of the things I say I'm going to do. And I do go to bed sometimes kind of like beating myself up. And I probably don't get as quality as sleep as if I just got up and did it. You know, it's interesting though, dude. That's a David Goggins fucking level situation you're describing there.
The best part is like, I'm not running up mountains. I'm doodling pictures. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm doing this like this crazy overbearing work. Everything I get to do, I love. And that's the thing.
Do you have days off?
I mean,
this is 7 days a week.
This is mostly 7 days because like even my workflow, like I said, it's interchangeable what I determine as my workflow. So Sundays are a lot more of a relaxed day. The way that I try to design it is Sundays can be red and green, you know, where I still have to maintain this regiment because the way that I look at myself, the actions that I take have to be consistent. The one thing I never was prior to this was consistent. So I need to make that promise to myself. I need to keep that promise to myself. And the cool part is when I start working with artists in the force or in the arena, they're coming in with no structure. And so they don't have to do the intensity I do. Let's figure out where you're waking up right now, what the first actions you are taking. How urgent do you feel moving into your day? Is it extremely urgent, like you're pressed for time? Okay, let's move your alarm away from your bed. Let's give you an extra hour. Is that hour really that important, or do you usually spend the first hour just doom scrolling anyway? You know, now let's dedicate that hour to something important, something impactful, a promise you can make. So you don't have to do it the way I do it, but we can design a similar system to get you to any level of intensity you want. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. Right. I mean, you're obviously hitting it hard and I have much respect for that. But right, I think if everyone thought that, and that's important that you said that, because I think if everyone thought that that's what they're about to sign up for, I don't think you're going to get very many phone calls, dude.
So Ryan asked me the same thing on his podcast. He was like, is this what you have everyone do? I was like, no. No fucking way.
You got to clarify that or clients are going to not be ringing. That phone's not going to be ringing. You know, I was thinking a little bit about you in regards to this person that you play in people's lives as a personal coach, as a life coach. I don't know if that's the right words, as a business and mindset coach. Do you ever have issues with boundaries? Because, I mean, doing what you do it can, to some people, feel like a father. It could feel like, you know, when you I'll be honest, I have played that role and still play that role with a lot of the people I work with. And it doesn't happen anymore because I've learned to create some very strict, you know, boundaries around it. It's more professional now and less personal. But I definitely got into that a little bit of quicksand with that because I was there for these people on a very intimate level. And what I didn't realize what was occurring is they were taking my actions as if I was saying, I'm your family.
Yeah.
I'm your dad. I'm your brother.
Yep.
You know, I think I would even use words like that, like, you know, and then when something might come up where I would back away, to them, it was like, how dare you? You're my fucking family. You're my brother and I need you right now. And it's like, well, bro, I'm not flying to fucking Detroit, Michigan to bail you out of jail.
Yeah.
Well, fuck you then.
Yep.
You know, so like it got blurry as far, and now I've learned over the years, but in the work that you do, is that an issue for you?
It was previously because I was uncertain of and I hate to use this term in the realm that I'm in presently, but I didn't know my ideal avatar. I didn't know who it was I could best serve. I just knew what it was I was able to accomplish. And if all I'm focusing on is, do you need help? I can help you. Then that leaves my back vulnerable to things like that. Now, with the work I do now, the intention, but also the intensity, people who want to work with me are in a position to want to change. I do work with artists who still struggle with, you know, putting the bottle down, doing the like, our shop goes out and drinks after work. That's what we do. How do I break that habit? You know what I mean? So I'm not helping you not drink. I'm helping you find the monster that's going to be strong enough to defeat those demons, which funnels into the podcast being called Creating a Monster. The one thing that I realized was that we all carry demons with us in one way or the other. And what helped me was realizing it's not just about facing your demons. It's about creating a monster in your life that's strong enough to overpower those demons from navigating your ship. And so that's what I help people do. But you have to be prepared. You have to be ready to start taking action immediately, because with what I do, it's not just a module-based program. It's not watch these videos, let me know if you have questions, I'll get back to you when I can. I work with each individual for a period of time, one-on-one, very intensely, because I like to be involved in the process. I like to know that people are creating momentum in their own lives, which can be taxing, but also it is very individualized, and it has to be. I can't just say, this is how I created my dreams. You try. You know what I mean? I need to be able to know sincerely and like intensely that your dreams are possible with your action steps applied, so that we have proof of concept that we can keep changing lives. I can't just say, what are your dreams? Yes. Sign on the dotted line, because that's where messes occur. That's where people start to rely on you more because you didn't follow through with what they expected your end of the bargain would be. And so I like to make everything, clear as day.
Yeah.
Here's what you told me you want. Here's what you're capable of accomplishing today. In 30 days, we're going to adjust. So here's my expectations of you. Here's my accountability, my hope, my support. Let's get to work. And that's the one thing that I say at the end of a lot of my videos, and I mean it with passion. Let's get to work. If you look at me as a father figure, that means you just want me to palm feed you a sugar cube and pat you on the head. Not my job.
Sounds like you got that figured out. Yeah. No, because I mean, good you do, because I think a lot of people get fucked in those relationships.
Yep.
But I like the way you did it. Like, hey, man, first of all, what's your goal? And first you're assessing if it's just like a pipe, somebody could tell you some crazy shit where you're like, I'm not going to coach you to get there because that's fucking crazyville. Yeah. Although probably anything's possible, but you want to see them present you with a goal based on who that person is, where you can at least go, yeah, that's doable. Yeah. And now we're going to give you what you're expected to do. And then if 6 months goes by and you aren't getting to the goal, well, let's talk. Did you do everything you were supposed to do? Yep. Because it's accountability at that point. Like, well, you can't blame me. You were supposed to get up at this time every day and do these things, and you did it half the time. Yeah. And now you're pissed at my program because you're not getting where you want to go. Well, that's on you. So clarity, I think you're doing it right.
Yeah. And I think that is really what it boils down to is any dream, as long as you don't tell me I would like to be a rocket cowboy or some like crazy obscure shit like that, is achievable. I mean, really look at what people have been able to accomplish. Like, people are mad at the money that others earn, but it wasn't the money that they created that's value. It's the financial freedom that everyone's envious of. We just need to reverbalize that terminology. So if you want to be able to create that, it doesn't matter so much on where you are as much as what it is you're willing to do to create the legacy in your life to achieve it. You know what I mean? And my objective is not to do client retention on 3-month time blocks. So there's one artist that I'm working with where hers is more retention based, because we're building out a massive studio for her in the Netherlands. And so we're building out every SOP, we're building out her code of conduct, we're building out the entire structure, how to negotiate and navigate doing contracts for not only the property owner, but also each individual artist that comes in, to have a hybrid system of whether you're going to do shop rent, percentage, what's supplied, because her dream was, I don't know, eventually I want to open a shop. And then I was like, okay, let's say 18 months. She's 6 months in, and she's signing her lease when she gets back. She's traveling America right now because she had the availability and the mental freedom to know she could leave and do that while that shop still ran consistently with those SOPs we built. So we went from a maybe one day universal provide dream, 18 months to 6 months. And now we're applying all of those strategies to it. So we went from a maybe to a you fucking bet. And it did take that retention. But within 3 months, you can create magic in your life. And then you can take those strategies and then you can go anywhere you want with them. But that's where I would prefer to know that people only need me for 3 months than to need me for 4 batches of 3. But it really does depend upon what the goal is.
And where that person is positioned when you meet them. Yeah. I mean, some people are down deep in the ditch and you got a little more work to do just to get to fucking even ground. And others are already on even ground. and they just need to move
Yeah.
10 steps forward, right? So you got to meet them where they're at, figure out digestible chunks to
Yeah.
get them where they need to go. Sounds like yeah, dude, I like what you're doing. It's cool. You were able to help that person do that shop and all the other people you help. Let me, as I talk to you, I kind of want to talk a little bit about your insights, your opinion of the tattoo industry as a whole. There's just a lot of talk out there about how everyone's slower now and business is tougher. And you've probably heard some of this.
Oh, yeah.
Let me hear you. I have my take on it. I think we're fine. And I'll get into why I think that in a minute. But what do you think is going on in our industry? Why have things changed?
I mean,
or have things changed?
Yes and no. I think the only thing that occurred was the bar is set so low, and I will make eye contact. The bar is set so low for mediocre tattoo artists that it's very saturated right there, And that's the problem. It's not that like everyone is slow. It's just everyone's fighting over the same stuff, Everybody's scavenging. Again, coming back to the intensity, if you learn how to hunt, if you learn how to track what it is you want and actually hunt, then you are going to do amazing, because the bar is set so low of expectation of what it is you want, what it is that's expected of you. If you turn the dial 10%, then you've already gone 10% more than what the expectations of the tattoo industry is right now. And the problem people are going to run into or have run into is there are a lot of veteran tattoo artists who I love dearly who are struggling because of their inability to adapt. There are a lot of new artists who are coming in who are less qualified, doing 10 times better because they grew up in an era where marketing, interactions, and social media reign supreme. They don't even know they're marketing. It's the only way they know how to interact. However, their in-person candor is absolute dog shit. And so I no longer believe in the adapt or die. I believe in the let's transcend and make the lifestyle your business, because tattooing, no matter how you look at it, is a lifestyle. The way you communicate with people, your family, your friends, your clients, it all has to be from a place of sincerity, purpose, and passion. If you work all day long only to go home and be extremely miserable, you'll never be successful. And I think that's kind of the problem, is people have relied so heavily on the expectations of what the tattoo industry can provide them that they're neglecting putting anything back into their tattoo career or the client experience. As you had said earlier, your shop's mission statement is client experience, making people feel welcome, how it is you treat the others instead of worrying so much about what you get to take away from them. So that's a lot of words to say. I think the tattoo industry is still going to be fine as long as you're willing to do what's necessary and not hyper-focus on client acquisition, not hyper-focus on money, not just say, well, what I need is social media marketing. What you need is to believe in yourself and be a better person so that you can be the best artist, to be able to work with the right clients who want the art and the experience that you provide. You have to be a personal brand, not just a door-to-door salesman. You have to believe in your product. You have to come with that like psychological warranty so that you can work with the people you deserve to work with.
Well put. I agree 100%. And, because I'm from the era where, and you too, for my first, 25 years, the amount of people that wanted to be tattooed and the amount of tattooers were, way out of whack.
Yeah.
There was not enough tattooers and way more people that wanted tattoos. So it really did allow for a lot of people just to be half-ass tattooing and thrive.
Yeah.
And those days I think are over permanently. And now we're going to have to treat our business, our craft, like everybody else that's in any other industry, like an insurance guy, like a fucking dentist. Like we have to do all the things you just said to compete now.
Yeah.
Which is great, and it's healthy, and it's normal. There's nothing wrong going on here. It's just that the old ways of just throwing a sign up, showing up hungover, and going home with your wad of cash, that's gone.
The best part is, once you start doing those things, you're no longer in competition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a thick layer of saturation, of that mediocrity, of that like almost like that farm the farm bred fish where they're all just eating over the same stuff. And then all of a sudden there's big clear waters where people are thriving. They're taking themselves they're taking their personal brand seriously. They're taking each other seriously. I don't have competition because I offer a different like product than the guy down the road. The experience is different. The interactions are different. The quality of art is different. And that's okay because they also offer a different product. There is a purpose for everyone. There's a place for everyone in the tattoo industry. Where do you want to land? And are you willing to do what it takes to get there? That's what I love about going back to the arena that we built out is now it's not just about let's hyper focus on making you the best you. Let's work on that foundation being your proof of concept. Now let's teach you everything about marketing and branding, both from the way you interact, the way you do client acquisition, but also your visual presence on your social media, because it's not just a professional portfolio. It's your resume. It's where people go and do their research. It's the starting point of their interview process to get to know you, because clients now want to know they're sitting down with the right person. Because people don't interact in person the same way anymore, they want to know they're going to have a level of comfort with you. So we design your personality through the way you present yourself on social media.
Yeah, showing people what you're all about, like, oh, look at this guy. He seems to go hiking a lot.
Yep.
I like to go hiking. Boy, he has good tattoos as well. I want to get tattooed by him because we're going to have something in common. He must love nature like I love nature. Yeah, you got to show that is, where we're at. We are lifestyle. We are selling. We are the product. Everything about us. That's something I've had to kind of come to terms with because from the old school, where it was like, there's my portfolio.
On the opposite end of the coin, look at the people who are just smoking pot with their buddies. You know what I mean? Their stories, them doing a bong rip. Like no matter what you post, you're marketing. Yeah. It's a matter of knowing who you're marketing to. Right. The way that you express yourself. It's again, that's fine if that's what you're into. But when you post, that is your brand now. You are marketing to a specific client. Now, if that's what you're targeting, fantastic. If you want to increase the quality of client, you have to increase the quality of individual. So when you're out partying with your buddies on the weekend and that's all your story is because you're footloose and fancy free, that's where it becomes a bit problematic because people won't know what to expect. And what a real good client wants is to know what to expect.
100% true and good advice. And we're both in agreement on that. Well, dude, you got a lot to offer. This is really, really cool. This company you've built, the Arena and the Force of Focus. I like it. And I know a lot of people that will benefit from following your advice. So if you're listening out there and you like what you're hearing, I mean, maybe you could tell people where to find you and how does it work? Let me get to that maybe first. Is this like a contract situation, or tell me a bit about how it would work? If someone just calls you up, I want to achieve some new goals in my life. I want help. What happens next? Okay.
So what we do is we get you on a call immediately because I don't believe in going to a landing page, filling all this out. You like clicking add to cart and pay now. I need to know that what you want is achievable and who you are is something that we can help you with. You know what I mean? Again, it's not about acquisition. So plan on dedicating 30 to 45 minutes on a call with me right out of the gate. Yeah. I'm going to get to know you. We're going to figure out where you've been, where you are, and where you want to go. That's kind of my favorite part of the process because that's where we really start to create the engagement, the relationship, because we'll both get a really good read of if I can help you and if you are someone who's in a position to put the work in, which is how I avoid really going down the darker path of things.
You can identify early on, like, maybe we shouldn't work together because this isn't going to work, and then you're going to think I fucked you, and let's just, you're interviewing them, they're interviewing you, making sure there's something that can, has some teeth, has some roots to it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yep. And so I love to go through that vetting process because it is a very active part in knowing where it is we can land you, how diligent we have to be on the work. A lot of people who come to work with me, they have a lot more of the internal work that needs to be done than they do the action steps of creating a business plan. So we figure out, okay, is your issue the fact that you need structure in your life to ensure the fact you're prioritizing what's important? Do you need systems so that you know that you have the right people on your team and that everyone is rowing in the same direction? Do you need marketing? And is the marketing plan you're working right now not suitable for tattoo artists? Because these are all vastly different. Marketing for tattoo artists is different than your run-of-the-mill marketing because it's not just here's how you funnel clients on social media. It's a social media business. It's client interaction. It's a service industry. It's brick and mortar. It's client retention and relationship building. And people neglect most of the latter. So you'll get on a call with me. You'll get on a call with Jake, who's my marketing and branding guy. You'll sit down with Matt, who does a lot of the tattoo techniques and the networking strategies to ensure that you're knowing how to interact with not only your clients, but also other tattoo artists. And we'll make sure that everything that you want, you will have immediate access to. And then we'll give you a little bit extra because we always overlook a little bit of what it is we truly need to be able to get ourselves to where we want. So let's figure out what you want, and then we'll give you what you need. And we will do that very intensely, but we'll do that very intimately to ensure the fact that we can get you to where you want to be and that you believe it. Because if you believe in me, that's awesome. But you believing in you is one of the biggest elements of all this to work.
Without that, you're going nowhere. Yeah. Cool, man. And again, back to the money part of it. Is it pay as you go, or is it just like a lump sum 6-month contract with your company, or how is it individualized?
It's to an extent very individualized. So we can do payment plans. We can even do funding options now. Like there's a lot of different ways we can go about it. It really depends upon where a person lands on their financial situation. Obviously, all things in life require investment, but I also don't want you to break yourself down so we can build you back up. We're going to figure out a way that it works. You know, very rarely, if you are searching for the right help and you have the right vision, can we not find a way to make it work for you?
Very cool. Very cool. Well, all right. So at the Force of Focus on Instagram for everything you just spoke about. The company that you would eventually, these people end up with is the Arena.
Yep.
Everything from an individual tattoo artist to a shop owner who wants to open 10 new locations and anything in between.
Yep.
Your personal art, Michaeel Getz Creations, at Michaeel Getz Creations. That's Getz. Yeah, that's where you find them, everybody. So, dude, thank you for coming, and thank you for, I don't know, man, bringing this level of positive, loving, nurturing, compassionate, empathetic energy that you carry with intensity. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, this is a beautiful, beautiful craft, art form, industry that I hold so dear to my heart. And anytime I meet somebody that's just raising it up, raising the bar, it's an honor to have you a part of what we do. It really is.
I appreciate that. This is what I will leave it with is that all means the world to me, because the same experience that I talked about right in the beginning of this podcast, the experience that I get to provide each individual client I work with to help them externally express themselves to be more attached to the person that they are, is the reason I do the Force of Focus. Because now I get to help artists experience the same results internally. You know, and I've dedicated more than half my life to this, man. Like it is who I am now. And I identify with that. It's a badge of honor that I wear. And I'll never stop doing it for anything.
Well, I said this in the beginning, the happiest, most fulfilled people I know are helping others.
Yeah.
I mean, that's truly where the joy in life is, if you can help another. So, and you've made it your life's work to do so. So kudos to you, man. That's amazing. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. You know where to find Michaeel. I highly suggest you give him a shot, at least give him a phone call, at least have a conversation, see if there's something you guys could do together. Thank you again for coming all the way out from Ames, Iowa, making the trip to come be on the show. I really appreciate it. And all of you listening, please, thank you for the comments, the DMs, the likes, the subscriptions. Keep them coming. I really need it. It's a young show and we need your support. So everyone that's doing that, thank you. And if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Love it.